Welcome to Body Hack and Build a Better You, the podcast where we unlock the secret to living a longer, healthier life and create a bloom zone in our life and within our family. I'm your host, Michaela Morell, and I'm here to provide you with the tools and knowledge to empower you to build a better you, one essential building block at a time. Today's episode is about overweight and obesity, and I will share my frustration over how we have been told to eat and live our lives a certain way, and as a consequence, that then leads to the amount of obesity we can see in the country, and then only to be offered shame and guilt tripping. Phrases like, it's because of your DNA, or solutions like, you just have to walk more, you need this medication, or you should take this surgery. Today, you will learn about the gut health you inherited from your parents and how that plays a role in how your body absorbs nutrients, how your cell hormone receptors get numbed out by the food you eat, sending the glucose that should get into the cells directly to fat storage instead, leaving people to gain weight regardless of how little they eat, and how your brain gets feedback from your starving cells and starving gut bacteria, making it impossible for you to control. I explained this topic like no one else have explained it, and I hope that you will enjoy this episode. I want to remind you that this podcast is for educational entertainment purposes only. Read the disclaimer in the show notes. I also want to remind you to always consult your healthcare provider if you plan to make any dietary changes. If you know anyone that is struggling with weight, I hope that this episode is valuable. Let's dive in. Welcome to Body Hacking Build a Better You. I'm your host, Michaela Morell, and today I'm sitting here in lovely Norway, and I'm not sure if you can hear the sheep in the background. Maybe you cannot, but I hear them, and I'm sitting here in a beautiful nature. It has just been raining, and I'm sitting enjoying outdoors. And today I want to talk about obesity. Obesity is a topic that is very triggering to me because there's so much things that we can control if we have the knowledge, but we have been taught how to live our life, what we should eat. We've been taught about the food pyramid. We have been taught that grains should be the main thing that we're eating. We've been taught so many things. And the consequence today is that the public health have never been worse ever before. If we're just starting and looking at some statistics, for example, 74% of the population in USA is overweight. And even if I'm in Norway now, we moved here as a family, I am still talking about the statistics over the United States. We have been living there for many, many, many years. I love the country. But the problem is that even if they're so great at so much, health is not one of them. And the scary part is that the rest of the world is following in the footstep of United States. We can see that more and more people are getting sicker and sicker as we are kind of looking up to the United States, and we're kind of implementing their way of eating. Their food chains are popping up where we're living too. So that's why I'm talking about those numbers. But it's over 2 billion of adults worldwide are struggling with overweight. Over 50% of children in the United States are overweight today. And over 50% of adults have diabetes or pre-diabetes. So I'm going to talk about diabetes today too, and we will touch a lot on that. And 30% of teens have diabetes or pre-diabetes. This is crazy, 30%. Before 1950, it was almost unheard of a child that was obese. And they did case studies when people struggled with obesity, and it wasn't too long ago. And today, 50% and 30%, that is like the norm now. So we have created something that was so unusual, it needed a specific case study and was documented, to now being so normal that we see it all over the place. And then 40% of 18-year-old people or younger is struggling with mental health diagnosis. And you will understand why. Because gut health is very related to obesity. Gut health is also very related to mental health. And when we're looking at obesity or having too much weight on our body, it also comes with a lot of health risks. For example, obesity is associated with the risk of chronic conditions, including diabetes type 2, heart disease, stroke, certain types of cancer, and osteoarthritis. It is also linked to metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions that increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. And why is obesity or having too much fat on our body linked to all of these health issues? Because fat itself, that is not harmful, like generally, because fat is just a fat source. I mean, an energy source. And fat itself, of course, we can have a little bit more heavy metals accumulated in the fat tissue, but it's not the fat itself that is making us prone for all of these heart diseases and stroke and cancer and so on. It's actually the reason why we gain the fat in the first place that is also making us prone to develop other health conditions. And that's why I feel it's so important to educate about this. We need to talk about it. And often obesity, instead of taking responsibility, we're blaming it on genetics, the DNA, or we're telling people that it's because of poor self-control. Well, I want to share my take on obesity today and maybe empower you with some new knowledge that no one else has been talking about that will help you on your journey to either avoid ever getting obese or help you on your journey if you're trying to lose some weight that might be in you might have weight that is not promoting health, if I leave it with that. And I know that so many people are struggling out there and they're suffering and their mental health is taking a toll too. Because when we're having too much weight, it's affecting everything, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about our looks, how we feel about energy wise too. And it's all connected. So I want to talk about that. And I'm frustrated over the only things that are really available when we're struggling with weight gain or obesity is that people are telling us to work out more, eat less, therapy or medication, or even surgical intervention. And I want to instead give you education as a tool so that you can kind of understand how your body is reacting and fight it. Help the body work for you instead of prohibiting you. So I will do my best today to educate you guys in a way that you understand. But I also want to talk, or let's start talking about gut health. I think that is such an important topic. So let's start with gut health, because gut health is playing such a big, important role when we are looking at our health, because everything kind of starts in our gut when we're looking at absorption, when we're looking at how the food is processed too, like how we are able to break down the food. So, and of course, things I will not have time to talk about today is enzyme and how that is playing a role in breaking down the food. But we're going to talk about bacteria today. We're focusing on that. And I want to just help you understand that in our gut, it's over 300 to 1,000 different species about living in our gut. So I cannot talk about all species of bacteria today. It's not that we even understand all of it, but the science is showing us more and more knowledge, but we're still so far from understanding everything that is happening in our gut. Our gut is an amazing thing, but it's really hard to really study in a way because you can't just feed a person the same diet for like 5 years to see what is going to happen. You need diversity because otherwise it's not ethical. So it's kind of hard to do hardcore studies on gut health and bacteria and so on. But I'm just gonna pull out two strains of bacteria today that I want you to know about. So one is called firmicutes. And firmicutes is very, very efficient at extracting the nutrients from the food you're eating. So if you have two people and one have access, so they have more of the firmicutes bacteria, from the same diet, they're gonna be able to get more nutrients from it. More energy will be pulled out from the food and put into your body. Well, this kind of bacteria was created while we are like starving to be able to extract as much from the food we're eating as possible because we needed it to survive. But today we're having food in an abundance. So why would we need so much of this bacteria today? And why is it taking over our gut? Well, I'm going to talk about that. But we also have a bacteria called bifidobacterium. And they have an effect on our gut to, that have been associated to lower the body weight and reduce the body fat. They help in improving gut bacteria and the gut barrier function and reduce inflammation. So inflammation is a big thing too. We're eating more and more animals, for example, that have been subjected to grains and feed that is increasing their inflammation levels, because when they are inflamed, they gain weight faster, which makes a bigger profit for the food industry. So when we're eating that cow, for example, that have been fed so much corn that it's so much inflammation that is causing them to gain more weight, we will also get the compensation of the meat of the cow, and that can be very inflammatory for us. That is why I always tell people, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to stop eating meat. The only thing I'm telling you is you need to get meat that is organic and grass-fed, and not just grass-finished. They should only be eating grass and hay during their life. That is what they were meant to do, and they need to eat that for the meat to have the quality that is meant for us to eat. So we have been touching on the inflammation, but then also we want to talk about the gut lining. So our gut is a very fantastic organ, and but it's very, very thin. It's just one cell thick. So very, very thin. So if you take your gut and you're unfolding it, it's big as a soccer field. It's so big because it's so thin. And when it's so thin, it is very prone for damage. And if you've heard about leaky gut is a gut that is damaged. It has small puncture wounds. It's actually the epicels that are supposed to be tight glued together. They're opening up so that nutrients are escaping directly into the bloodstream instead of going the way through the cells. Because nutrients are supposed to be broken down in so small particles, micronutrients, that are able to get transported through the cells that are building up the gut wall. But if it's broken, too big particles of food, it can be good food, it can be bad food, but all of them are not supposed to be in the gut until they're broken down into small enough components. And also bad bacteria, good gut bacteria can also escape out in the bloodstream, and it's not supposed to be there. So it will create inflammatory responses in the body that will fight it, but the blood is pumped around very, very quickly in our body, and it gets pumped up in our brain as well. So if we're having particles in our blood that is not supposed to be there, it can get stuck in joints because we are bending a lot, and the inflammation can be worse in joints. It can go up to our brain, causing us to have problem of communicating correctly between the cells, causing us to feel depressed, have anxiety, depression, problem sleeping, and so on. So there is a lot of things going on here, but in order for us to protect the gut wall, we have something called mucosa, the gut lining. And that gut lining is there to prevent leaky gut. And in a healthy person, they have a healthy gut lining, but that gut lining can get destroyed. And when that one gets destroyed, we're more prone to struggle with leaky gut. So what is destroying our gut lining? Well, bad gut bacteria can destroy it when we're having too many of them. But it's mainly like foods that are causing a fermentation that is promoting bad gut bacteria that is the root cause of it, like drinking alcohol, drinking sweet drinks or sweeteners, eating sugar, eating processed foods, and then gluten. The reason why gluten is so problematic is because it's a protein that the body don't really like. Even if you don't have a gluten sensitivity, the amount of gluten we eat today, because before it didn't used to be as much gluten. Today it's over 800 times more gluten in the products that have gluten in them. So we're subjected to more gluten today than we have ever been. And it's a protein that the body doesn't really like. And when we have that one coming down in our gut, we have our immune system on the other side of the gut lining, and our immune system goes to attack on the gluten. And so they're fighting through the border of the gut lining, causing the gut lining to get damaged. And that is when leaky gut starts happening. So in order for you to prevent that, you need to have good gut bacteria. So this strain of good gut bacteria is actually promoting a healthier gut lining. And a big reason for that is because they're eating prebiotic foods, and the prebiotic foods get metabolized to butyric acid. And butyric acid is a very important nutrient that is helping us restore the gut lining. A lot of information now, a lot of technical information. If you're watching the YouTube, you will be able to get my hand signals as well, so that it might be a little bit more clear of how things are built up. But I hope that you guys are able to follow me if you're only listening to this podcast episode as well. So when we're looking at the different bacteria, it's important for us to understand what is feeding them, because we have bacteria that are either promoting us having a healthy weight or is causing us a hard time to maintain a healthy weight. So every time you put something into your stomach, it's important to understand that there is no neutral food. Everything you eat is either feeding the good gut bacteria or the bad gut bacteria. And if we're looking at the firmicutes, for example, the first one strain I was talking about, they are fed and thriving when you're eating high sugar diets and sweetened beverages, when you are eating grains, processed foods. And if you're eating a less fiber diet, then this strain is thriving, because what's happening then is if you're not feeding the other strains with good food, if you are very bad at eating veggies and fruit, for example, or just whole foods in general, and if you're choosing processed foods instead, well, then the good gut bacteria is not getting enough of food and they're dying off. And when they're dying off, then this strain of bacteria will thrive. The bad gut bacteria will have a party. They are the only ones in the hood. They will push everyone else. They are the one ruling the environment in your gut. And that environment is not positive. It's not good. But they believe they're doing a good job because they're so darn good at extracting all the energy they can and put that sugar into your bloodstream. Loving it. But when we're looking then at the bifidobacterium, what they eat, well, they need prebiotics. Okay, so leeks, asparagus, jerusalem, artichoke, chicory root, for example. But how many times a week do you feed your kids that? And things that you have cooked from scratch. Not many kids get that anymore. And then bananas, honey, agave, legumes like peas, beans, and lentils, and fermented dairy like kefir. We have oats, apple, berries, kiwi, carrots, sweet potatoes, and broccoli. They're all feeding the good gut bacteria. And then, of course, if you want to add more gut bacteria that is helpful and good, then we have kimchi, sauerkraut. And also, something that's good is to cook your potato and rice and cool it off before you eat it again. And if you do that, then your gut bacteria will be super happy. And then we have nuts and seeds like almonds, flaxseed, and chia seeds. So all of those are promoting the good gut bacteria. But if you're not eating enough, it can be very hard to build this up. And even if you're eating enough, it can still be hard to build it up if you have had a big imbalance. And imbalances can happen because of the bacteria we are inheriting from our parents. So if we're having a parent that have been struggling with depression or been struggling with ADHD or obesity or any other thing that is linked to poor gut health, you will be more prone to also struggle with your gut health. So looking at the bacteria, we need to feed it good, and it can be problematic to feed it. So sometimes we might need to supplement it. There is a lot of different supplements out there that could be beneficial. Some people are like taking just a butyric acid supplementation right away. I encourage you to eat a lot of butter, but then eat more prebiotics. So I personally take a supplementation that have 8 different prebiotics fibers in it, and I add that to our diet every single day. Even when I'm eating healthy food, I sprinkle it on top. I'm drinking it in my water. I'm feeding my good gut bacteria because I am one of those people that have been struggling with my gut health for so long. Just diet alone and just a whole food diet is not cutting it out for me. So we've been talking now about gut health. Now I want to talk about insulin. So insulin is like a special key in your body that helps unlock your cells so that you can use sugar from the food you eat for energy. So if you eat a piece of sandwich, for example, that gets turned into pure sugar, and we need to be able to use it in our body. So when we are eating that, you are going to release more insulin to help move that sugar from the blood into the cell. If it's not able to move it into the cell, it's going to be moved directly to fat storage. And if the sugar stays in your blood, then it can make you very, very sick. So that is why we have the fat storage alternative as an alternative to be using it up as energy. But why is it then? Because this is the thing. When people are struggling with losing weight and they feel like they're barely eating any food and they're still gaining weight, usually this is the problem, that the hormone receptors are completely numbed out. So even if you have insulin in your blood, even if you have the hormone receptor, they're not able to attach to each other, and they're not able to send the next signal of and helping the body move the sugar from the blood into the cell to create the energy that needs to be created. So the question is, because we need to learn how to ask why. So why is not our body absorbing the nutrients, or why is it absorbing too much? Why is it not able to get it into the cell? Why are we insulin resistant? Let's look at the cell. So the cell, if you're holding up your hands and you're forming a round ball, the cell is supposed to be permeable and soft. But what is happening in today's society, because we are lacking essential fatty acids called omega-3, our cell membranes are becoming stiffer, because when we're lacking omega-3, the body takes what it has, and we always are eating way too much omega-6. So when we're eating more omega-6s, the body is able to take those building blocks instead and create healthy cell membranes. But here's the secret. They are not healthy. They're just cell membranes. And those cell membranes become too hard and rigid. They're more prone for damage. If your skin is dry and flaky and grayish, it's because your cells are not built the way they're supposed to. We want to have soft, permeable, plump cells that are healthy. So a result of that is when our cell membranes are too hard, less nutrients are able to get in. So a lot of the micronutrients we need, a lot of the essential vitamins and minerals that we need for the processes inside of the cell, they're not able to get transported in, and our energy production is going to suffer from it. But then when we are looking at what properties omega-6s have, omega-6s are actually saving our life in cases when we're cutting ourselves. They are creating the inflammation that we need to make the fat stop bleed. But when the inflammation is done, we need omega-3s that says, hey, turn off the inflammation now. If we're only building up our cell membranes with just omega-6s that are pro-inflammatory, and we're lacking the essential omega-3s that are anti-inflammatory, then we're going to have a completely different property than we're going to have if we have an equal amount. So a healthy cell have about equal amounts, or no more than 3-to-1 ratio between omega-6s to every omega-3 molecule. But if we're having way too many omega-6s, that means that we are having way too many pro-inflammatory building blocks. And the result of that is that our cell membranes have the hormone receptors on top of them, and they're numbing them out. So even if we have the insulin, even if we have the hormone receptors are numbed out simply because the way we're building up our cell membranes. So what can happen then if we are helping the body having enough of building blocks so that it can create healthy cells? And now I get so excited, because if you understand the body, or starting to understand the body, and you start to understand what I'm telling you now, and when we're looking at science showing, for example, there was one scientific study done here in Norway where they had heart cells from rats, and they were completely insulin resistant. And they had those heart cells get more omega-3s. And what happened was that their insulin resistance were reversed. And now, if you can imagine us being able to reverse insulin resistance in the heart cells of mouses, and then if that can be translated to humans, what will then happen? And this is why I'm so darn excited about sharing this knowledge with you. Because a lot of the times, the cells are so hard that if nutrients are not able to get in, and even if we're having glucose in our blood, it's not able to get in. So the cells keep on screaming up to our brain, eat more. I am dying. I am starving. I need more nutrients. Eat, 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 eat. And it's going to be so hard for us because our hormones will not help us. Our hormones will put on the hormone that is just making us hungry all the time, and we are going to struggle. But what is happening if we're reversing that, and we're helping our cells to function better, our hormone receptors to function better, and the nutrients are able to get into the cell? Well, most of my clients, I would say all of my clients, they do feel like they are more content. They're not as hungry. They are feeling happier and more full when they're eating food. They're not feeling like the extra snacks is something they need in their diet. And what's so fascinating is that it's actually changing the taste bud, because not only is it the cells screaming to the brain, eat more, eat more, eat more, also your bad gut microbiome, so the bacteria living in your gut, they're also screaming to you. We need more pasta. We need more French fries. We need this and that milkshake. We are otherwise dying. So we believe that that is the type of food we like, but it's not. It's just the bacteria loving it, and they're sending us very strong signals. So when we are changing how the cell looks like, and when we're changing so that we have enough of nutrients coming into our body, and our microbiome gets restored, and we're able to change that, then the good gut bacteria will be fed, and they will take over the space, and suddenly you will have changed taste buds. And this is so much fun when people are always calling me like, Michaela, can this change the way I am craving food? Or like, is this changing my taste buds? I had one guy calling me. I used to love beer, but I don't like beer anymore. I tried one and I tossed it, and I tried another kind and I tossed it and tried another kind. And eventually I was just like, I don't like beer anymore. And in my head, I'm like thinking, victory. I also have people that have told me, Michaela, I kind of wished I never knew you because you have changed the way I'm thinking about food so much that I cannot enjoy anything I know is harmful for my body now, because now I'm eating what I know my body's craving. That's actually what I'm craving too now, because my taste buds have changed so much. My biggest reward hearing from a client was when I was helping someone to just optimize his health after a heart attack and just with nutrition. And he called me and he was so joyful because he had been struggling with alcoholism for pretty much his whole adult life. I think it's at least 20 years he had been struggling, and he had ruined his family life over it. He was the cranky guy at work. And after he got in balance, and after he had implemented the strategies we implemented with his diet, he just was not craving alcohol anymore. So he called me and he's like, I haven't been drinking. Not that I'm trying to quit, but I just haven't been feeling like it. I have no craving for it. Guess if that made me excited. And then he was wondering how come? So I can't with 100% certainty say that this is the way, but in my head, it made the most sense. Maybe his personal addiction to alcohol had nothing to do with the actual alcohol itself, but it had everything to do with his cells feeling like they were dying. Because if they're dying, they're sending signals, we need more energy. And alcohol is just a sugar source. So maybe his craving was very strongly connected to malnutrition, that he wasn't able to get what he needed. And the body kept on sending signals, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more for survival, for being able to be happy. I need more, I need more. And then suddenly, when we are regulating all of his systems in the body, including his hormonal systems, including his digestive systems, including his ability to absorb nutrients, including adding more nutrients, his cells are so happy and content that they quit sending the signals to the brain that he needs alcohol. That's a theory I have, but it's a darn good theory, I think. It makes a lot of sense in my head. So if you now can understand, it's over 74% of adults in United States are overweight or struggling with obesity. That starts to make sense knowing that 99% are having cells that are not functioning correctly. They're too hard. The cell membranes are not working properly. They're struggling with the nutritional intake. That in combination of us being busy parents, choosing simple solutions sometimes. Maybe we're buying that shredded beef in this grocery store together with that pre-made potato salad for a fast dinner after we're busy coming home from school. Maybe we're stopping by and bringing some food with us when we're traveling back home. All of these things in combination is contributing to us feeding the poor gut microbiome more and more and more. Every time we have that piece of bread, every time we have that glass of wine, every time when we are eating a processed item or when we're drinking a sweetened drink or one that have sweeteners in them, we're feeding the bad gut bacteria. So when you're thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense why people are struggling so much. And what I want to encourage you is to start thinking about this and start eating to feed your good gut bacteria. And if you struggle with this and if you want help, you can reach out to me. You find me on my webpage or on Facebook. And I am planning a course in this. So you can tell me and you can be on the wait list for when I'm launching that course. But it's important to understand that maybe it's not you. Maybe it's not your brain. Maybe it's the gut bacteria that is tricking your brain or your cells screaming. Because what is happening when our cells are malnourished? They're not able to create that energy. And if we're not able to create the energy, we're going to have cells that are dying. They're not able to produce, and they will eventually be dying off. And when we're looking at brain health, for example, diabetes type 1 is when you don't have any insulin at all produced. Diabetes type 2 is when you have insulin, but they're not able to attach to the hormone receptors. And then we're starting to talk about diabetes type 3. That is what we have been labeling when our brain cells are not able to get the energy that it needs. And that is resulting us developing dementia and Alzheimer's. So when we're looking at brain health, it's so important for our brain cells to have both the nutrients they're supposed to get in there, but also oxygen. And when we're talking about oxygen, then I have to talk about walking. It's so important for you to do some type of exercise to get the oxygen around in our body so it can get into the cells. And then it's also very important to drink enough of water. Water. I'm not telling you to drink Gatorade or whatever else. I'm telling you to drink water because that is what surrounds our cells and our inside of our cells. So for our cell function, we need to have a lot of water in our body. And then I need to mention sleep. It's so important for our body to be able to recover during nighttime. So we need to have healthy sleep habits too. And if you do all of these things, then I promise you that you will see health benefits coming into your life. How big they are, I cannot tell you. It's hard to measure, but maybe your increased energy will help you create healthier habits. Maybe that increased energy will also help you when you get back home to have the energy to cook some healthy foods. And eventually, people are usually put in a spiral of happiness, of good habits that is causing their body to thrive a little bit more. And that is when we are creating these superhumans that the people that are implementing these are creating blue zones within their own family. And they're doing it with one essential building block at a time. And that's why I'm so excited, because if we can get this information out there, this knowledge, we can truly make a change in the world and help stop the ever increasing graphs of disease that are just taking off too high. And I don't want to see those graphs. I want us to level them out. So I hope that this episode help point you into some directions that you might want to explore for yourself. And now I'm going to go and grab my kids from school. Hope you're having an amazing day. Take care. Bye. If you enjoyed today's episode, I encourage you to do one thing for me. Think of one person you want to share this podcast with and copy the link and send it right away. Thanks for playing an important role in the Blue Zone community. And if you want to keep on building a better you, one essential building block at a time, hit that subscribe button. See you in the next episode.